You're sitting right next to them. Same room, same silence. But something feels miles away. They're scrolling, you're thinking. And the distance between you feels louder than any argument you've ever had. You look at them. They don't look back. And your mind starts whispering, "Why do I feel so alone right now? Did I do something wrong? Why do they pull away when I get closer? Do they even feel this connection like I do?" Here's the truth most people get wrong. They're not distant because they don't feel. They're distant because they feel too much and don't know what to do with it. You're not asking for too much, and they're not incapable of love. This is not the end of your connection. It's just a pattern, a very human one. And by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly how to reach them. Not by chasing, not by forcing, but in a way that makes them feel you deep in their soul. Let's get into it. Most couples believe if someone pulls away, you need to try harder. More texts, more reassurance, more effort. But the real truth is, the more you chase an avoidant, the more their nervous system reads you as pressure, not love. And pressure doesn't create connection. It creates distance. Here's what nobody explains. Avoidants don't disconnect because they don't care. They disconnect because closeness activates something overwhelming beneath the surface. Their nervous system isn't saying, "I don't want you." It's saying, "This feels like too much, too fast, too deep." So they pull back, not to lose you, but to regulate themselves. And when you chase, you unintentionally confirm their fear. Not because you're wrong, but because their system isn't built for intensity without safety. This isn't about fixing them. It's about understanding the cycle. And once you see it, everything starts to shift. Most couples think love means pursuing harder when someone pulls away. But chasing feels like pressure to an avoidant nervous system, and pressure triggers withdrawal. It's not rejection, it's regulation. Instead of saying, "Why are you being distant? Talk to me," you shift to something softer like, "I'm here when you're ready." No pressure. That one shift changes everything. Because in their mind, something relaxes, something opens, something says, "I'm not being pushed right now." And when you do that, the walls between you start to come down without either of you having to fight for it. Here's the part no one talks about. Most people confuse emotional intensity with connection. But avoidants don't feel safe in intensity. They feel overwhelmed. Not louder conversations, not deeper talks forced too soon, not constant emotional pressure, but calm presence, steady energy, and emotional safety they can predict. Instead of saying, "Why don't you open up to me?" you shift to, "You don't have to explain everything. I'm okay just being with you." And suddenly, something inside them softens. Something says, "I don't feel judged here." And that's when they begin to open. Not because you pushed them, but because you made it safe enough for them to. Most couples react emotionally when they feel distance. But your emotional spikes become their reason to shut down further, because their nervous system reads conflict like danger, like a smoke alarm going off even if there's no fire. Instead of reacting with, "You always do this," You shift to grounded presence and say, I feel the distance, but I'm not going anywhere. And that lands differently. Something in them says, this feels calmer. I don't need to escape this. And that's when they stay. Not because they're forced, but because for once, it feels safe to. Most people either chase or completely shut down when avoidants pull away, but both feel like loss to them. What they actually need is space without emotional abandonment. Instead of disappearing or going cold, you say, take your space. I'm still here. Simple but powerful. Because in their mind, something changes. Something says, I can breathe, and I'm not losing this person. And that's the moment they start missing you. Not because you left, but because you didn't. Most couples try to fix the avoidance behavior, but you can't logic someone into emotional availability. Not more explaining, not more convincing, not more analyzing. But presence. Real presence. Instead of saying, you need to work on your issues, you say, I don't need you to be perfect. I just want to feel close to you. And that hits differently, because something in them says, I'm not being changed. I'm being accepted. And that's what creates craving. Not pressure, but emotional permission to exist as they are. Most people lose themselves trying to keep an avoidant, but the more you abandon yourself, the less they feel drawn to you, because attraction needs grounded energy, not emotional dependency. Instead of saying, why don't you need me? You shift to, I love you, but I'm still whole without you. And that lands deep, because something in them says, she's not clinging, she's choosing me. And that creates respect, desire, and a connection that feels real instead of forced. And this is the one most couples never figure out. Avoidants don't respond to pursuit. They respond to the absence of pressure. Not distance as punishment, not silence as manipulation, but calm, emotional steadiness that gives them space to move toward you. Instead of initiating everything, you pull back slightly, not cold, just grounded. And suddenly something shifts in them. Something says, why do I feel like reaching out now? Because for the first time, they're not reacting, they're choosing. And that's when connection becomes real, not forced, but felt. This isn't a strategy, it's a shift in who you become. You stop chasing, you stop proving, you stop over-explaining. And you start showing up as someone who is grounded, emotionally safe, and deeply present. And when you become that, everything changes. Because an avoidant doesn't crave noise. They crave peace they can finally trust. And when they feel that with you, they don't just come closer, they stay. You don't make someone feel you by holding on tighter. You make them feel you by becoming someone they don't feel the need to escape from.